Alright guys, J-Mac from Bet Refinery here to talk about the biggest betting market of all time, and it's not even close. Trump versus Biden for the chip, for the belt, for the White House, the big house. The 2020 US election, by far and away the biggest betting event in history. I can't fact check that against things 20, 30 years ago, but there's no way. Hillary versus Trump 2016 was an absolute monster. But this is bigger. And there's those Mayweather fights, Mayweather-McGregor was a monster, Mayweather-Pacquiao, there's been some big boxing fights, but the US election in 2020, biggest betting event of all time. I'm going to talk about the bets that I had, the arbitrage opportunities that I spotted out here in Australia, some learnings for the next time with political markets. You can bet on these in the US and predict it. I know some guys that did really well trading predict it. I think they're set up in New Zealand, which is genius, good for them. They're able to navigate the can't bet on the presidency rules that exist for sports books. So that's one to check out, predict it. But I'm going to be talking about Betfair, I'm going to be talking about the sports books out here, I'm going to be talking in Australia, talk about the arbitrage opportunities that existed, how I took advantage, how I nearly lost my absolute shirt, and some learnings, some key learnings. Let's get into it. Okay, so as I said, biggest betting market of all time. Nearly 2 billion Australian dollars have been matched at the moment. Trying to convert, that's about 1.5 billion US dollars have been traded at Betfair. That's one place. It's not a bookmaker, it's an exchange. It's a global platform. Describes itself as kind of like a financial intermediary where two people from either side, they settle the bet, right? So nearly 1.5 billion US dollars traded by people all over the world. You got to be a bit crafty to be able to bet from the US. I know some guys that did, and get on the Betfair platform, which is a UK company. It's the preeminent source of the wisdom of crowds, right? So there's so much money getting transacted on there. The odds at any point in time is the linear probability of those events happening. So I use that as a guide. I know that when Betfair is liquid, and you can use Pinnacle as well with some sporting markets, but politics, when that market is live and liquid on Betfair, that's the true probability. So anytime I can find odds that exceeds the probability of the stuff on Betfair, I'm gonna have a bet. Now, there's a few different circumstances that meant Joe Biden was the man you wanted to bet. Now, sportsbooks got slammed for Donald Trump. All that recreational money, and I liken this to when McGregor fought Mayweather. There's so much recreational money on McGregor, even though we know the result. We know McGregor started okay in that fight, but ultimately was put to the sword by one of the greatest fighters of all time. McGregor was backed in off the map. He was sort of plus 600, plus 700 to start. By the time the fight started, some sports books had made him plus 300 because their liability was so big. The same thing happened with Trump. So he's got the brand name. No one knew Joe Biden, in Europe, in Australia, we barely know him now, apart from, being a bit of a dinosaur and being attacked for being forgetful and being nearly 80 years old and a couple other little narratives if you go down some rabbit holes in terms of some suggestive conspiracies on how Big Joe got the ticket and some of his preferences socially and personally. But regardless, people barely knew who he was. Trump, everyone knows the great man who won the 2016 election in glorious fashion. He beat Hillary at plus 550, plus 450. I got a tiny bit. It was kind of like an emotional hedge. I got a little bit of 10 to 1 in the run, which is what Trump hit on election night in 2016. This year, Joe Biden's odds in the run, which I'll get to in a second, ballooned out, considerably. But initially these sportsbooks were getting slammed. All the money was for Trump, and he was the outsider at this point. After a pretty rough 2020, he was sort of plus 300, I think, maybe plus 350 at some points in time. All that money would just keep coming, no matter how short the sports books were. All that money just came for Trump. So they would, fishing for Biden bets. They wanted Biden money, so they would arbitrage Biden by having his odds exceed the Betfair probability at the same point in time, right? So if I wanted to, I could smash Biden at a sportsbook and trade him out on Betfair, and people would have done this to just obscene wads of money. That's not really my style. I like to find the value and just hold the ticket. What that meant is I nearly gave up betting on election day when Trump took the lead, and I knew he was going to win Florida. But when he took the lead and then he had all that early momentum in some of those swing states, I couldn't eat. I felt sick in my stomach. You ever had too much money on something and you know that, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and you gotta make some life decisions that are gonna change the trajectory of who you are and your income. That was me halfway through, that election. Trump, once he got Florida and then got that early momentum, he was trading at minus 350. I had all these Biden tickets, stacked to the brim. What was I back? I was backing him at $1.80.85. The US equivalent of that was minus 118. So I got in kind of late, but still got a lot of value because he, on election night he was, what was he, minus 300? Is that right? No, minus 200. It was minus 200 to plus 200 Trump just before the election started. So I got all these tickets, completely overexposed at minus 118 on Joey Biden, and just felt sick. Trump's done it again. The big redhead, the man, the antagonist, the protagonist. He's done it. I'm sick. I can't eat. I can't talk. I'm unresponsive. I'm on the canvas. Part of me knew, and this is going to sound like Monday morning quarterbacking, but part of me knew that he had, he was what's the US equivalent, minus 300 favorite to win Michigan, Minnesota, all these places, Wisconsin. Biden was, a really red hot favorite to win all those swing states, which he ultimately won. But in the run, and I knew that he would come back with all those the votes that were coming in late for him, and he got out. Joe Biden got out to plus 350 on the Betfair exchange, at least, maybe slightly more for a tiny point in time. And I knew that he had a lot of momentum to come, but I was so over-invested at Biden at much shorter odds that I just couldn't commit. I didn't have the stomach, the cojones to go again, and I regret that at the time, and I probably knew I'd regret it, but I couldn't care less, because if I could get out and Joe Biden could win this, I would have done anything. And thankfully, the momentum shifted, and to be honest, I still haven't been paid. I want to share a bunch of all my tickets, but it's in another person's name, and I haven't been paid. The event happened 4 weeks ago. So yeah, that's probably a secondary story, but yeah, my point being is I was so sick and nervous on election day, but Biden was able to come back and looks to have won it, unless Trump's able to just do the most miraculous victory of all time, which the betting market suggests he might be able to do that. The market's still alive, and he's 20 to 1 on Betfair, so he might be able to pull this off at the Big Donald, but I'm hoping that I'm about to get paid out a significant amount of money on Joe Biden. So yeah, as I said, I just saw Arbitrage, and a lot of guys saw similar things. Key information was Betfair was number 1 by far and away. You got Nate Silver and all those guys with all their models, criticize them all you want. I'm happy to, that they had Joe Biden way too short. However, that's one sort of influence. And then I had these guys that bet on this professionally: Paul Krishnamurti, Tavis Rendell, these guys that I respect and whose opinion I was getting fed. I had confidence that the Biden was the wrong price, and that's all you're doing when you're betting. I'm not a Biden man. I'm not a Trump man. I'm a green man. I'm just trying to find the value. I'm trying to find that cash, and Biden was over the odds of his true probability of winning. He's got him by this much, I think, when they settle it. But his odds were greater than his probability. And that's all you can do as a sports bettor. The biggest learnings for me is I went way too hard at that price, and I left myself no room to move later on. When the price ballooned out, I could have traded and had an amazing day. Instead, I had no cojones left, and I had no money left. I was pot committed. I felt sick. I had nothing else I could do. Except, nervously speak to the big man upstairs and say, please let Joey do it. Sorry all you Trump fans, but I bet for value, and I think when these tickets get resulted, they'll come in. I've probably won about 20 grand between me and my business partner. We're probably up 20. 10 of that would be at the money line, and then a few props hit as well. So we had 20 invested. So we've put in 20, we pull out 40. Which I'm happy with, but the stress that caused me, it's probably taken 6 months off my life. Is that worth 10 grand? No, probably not. So we've got to do this better next time. But political markets are an amazing opportunity to bet on. I know in the US it's a little tricky, but if places like Predicted and some of these other platforms can get up, there's some real opportunities to bet in these, because there can be, particularly in presidential elections, there's a lot of recreational money, meaning that the markets aren't efficient. There's opportunities there. There's side markets. Like, we all knew Trump was going to win Florida. We all knew that. It was like minus 120. Why didn't we just go chips in, The D-man, he's taken his home away from home. They weren't wearing masks, you knew that. Florida, they weren't playing around. We should have gone chips in there and we could have slept easy. But anyway, plenty of things to learn. Be ready for the next presidential election. There's so many opportunities, particularly leading up to it. Just a side piece of information. The Democratic nominee, when Joey Biden won the Democratic nominee, he beat out Kamala Harris was favorite at one point. Bernie was favorite at one point. Elizabeth Warren was favorite. I fell into her. Lizzie, I had too much on you, man. Way too much. So that wasn't good. Who else? Klobuchar, she was in the market too. There was like 5 favorites for the Democratic nominee leading up in the 6 months till they made that decision and went with the old boy, Joey. So something to note for next time, there's so many side markets you can profit on leading up to the actual presidential event, but the Republican nominee, I'm going to be watching that for the 6 months that leads up. There's going to be some crazy people that nominate. It's a massive fluctuations, which means opportunity for cash. And hopefully, there's a bunch of other political markets so we don't have to wait 4 years to be able to find a couple of greenbacks on the floor. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you're ready for the next election betting. And also watch this video on bonus bets. I put this one together about the best ways to use bonus bets. There's a bad way, there's a good way. Watch the video. There's an ebook that goes with it. Good content, I'm pretty sure, that I think you guys will enjoy. Like, subscribe, do all that. Thanks so much for watching. I know there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. I really appreciate you getting to the end of this. Thank you.